In my opinion, spirituality is there with us all the time, the Terry mind state. This is a 9-step process that deals with the different bodies that we have. Thoughts come in, you really can't control them. Thoughts are either yours or they come in from the outside. The ego of pride comes up, or the ego of laziness comes up, the ego of gluttony comes up. This whole process is to try to put things into that subconscious that will help us to make decisions later on. So here's what we'll do in order to now change our default consciousness. And this is the hard part for most people. The brain goes through and it retrieves the information. The way in which it processes the information before isn't necessarily the same way it's going to process the information now. How are we going to list out all the egos that the mind uses? How are we going to list all those out? Get every single one of them, list them out, okay? Then get all your emotions and list them out. Those are all the emotions that the heart uses. Okay, now in the middle, we have the brain. The brain now picks up the pictures. And you have examples of these things happening. Whether it's from the experience that you're going to get, which is you're going to hear something, you're going to see something, you're going to smell something, you're going to taste something, you're going to feel something. These are the outside things that happen, the physical things that happen, that then triggers and resets your default consciousness because of the 99% that's going on in the background. Our job is to realistically look at these issues. Now, let's say that I am at work, and every time in the past, when I speak up in meetings, I get shut down. It's 10 years later, and I still don't speak up in meetings. And every time I go to the meeting and I'm supposed to say something, in a split second, if my things from the past come up, the fear is there. I start getting a knot in my tummy. The ego says, oh, you might not want to do anything here. Let's get lazy on this one. Okay, let's put a pause. And the brain says, yeah, I'm going to, do you remember that situation right there? Here's the situation that happened. Yep, I have the picture. And then the heart says, oh my gosh, I am scared. I am absolutely scared. So could you please increase my cortisol so I don't do anything? I need to increase my cortisol. I need to have my stress level go up right now. I need that protection. Okay. Yeah. All right. Are we good? Good. And so now your mind and your brain and your heart and your body are now in sync. Yeah. So that's now becomes your reality. We exist in our brain. We exist in our head. The formless is where we exist. Where we experience is in our body. We are in our existence 99% of the time. That meeting 10 years ago is not happening today. The situations 10 years ago is not happening today. However, we use those situations to judge our action today. Now, that's not a bad thing. What's a bad thing is when the situation changed. So now we're in a different environment. We could be in a different job. We could have learned to speak better. We could have learned to approach a certain subject another way. Multiple things could have happened why that was appropriate at the time. And now we're in a situation where that we don't need to worry about it anymore. Yet we do. Yet we use that to hold us. Another situation could be where we had something happen and it was a disappointment. Okay. I don't know. Let's see. We had, sorry if this brings up anything for anybody, but, God forbid you're one of those people who, hey, you got engaged and you may even reach the altar and the person didn't show up for the marriage. They break it off right before and all that, right? And that's a devastating situation. And then later on, you shut down because that emotion right there that's coming in with the ego protecting you for good reason, right, is there. The mind, the brain saying, hey, here's a picture that I can paint for you. Here's what happened. And then, the heart says, yeah. So then you shut down. Okay. And you might never give yourself or don't get over it. And then we'll say, hey, this is going to take me a long time to get over. Okay. Well, those two stories are absolutely true. They can be devastating. Our job, really, though, is to retrain our consciousness on those. Let them come up. And as I said, list out the ego, list out the emotion, figure out which one's linked to that situation. And say, you know what? How am I going to change my default consciousness with that? When I got left at the altar, when someone that I absolutely loved decided that they weren't going to marry me, what did I learn from that? What are some of the takeaways that I can now, maybe years later, that I feel in a better position, learn from? Okay. It's that learning opportunity and the decisions that we make moving forward that is going to help us to overcome that. If we never understand, change, and retool that whole process, it's always going to come up the same way. It's always going to come up the same way because that's how our body works. That's our default system, right? So what we try to do then is realize that all experiences are for some reason that you can learn from, something that you can get that's good out of it, because everything is personal. Your situation is absolutely personal. I can only give certain examples, right? And I try to give maybe the extreme and stuff like that. But your situation might be different. And how we analyze that is going to be different for each person. However, the general consensus is the same. The general consensus is the same. And the reason we don't get out of our own heads is because we replay the same picture. It's the same movie. It's the same movie. We need to get a director and say, hey, let's cut out this scene, put in this scene instead. Let's change this narrative, put in this narrative instead. Let's attach this emotional part to it. Let's take out this emotional part and attach this emotional part to it and rewrite your script. Believe it or not, that's possible. You rewrite that script, and when you rewrite that script, all of a sudden your default consciousness no longer attach the bad situation to it or the negative situation to it. And physicists will tell you this, and good scientists will tell you this as well, that your remembrance changes. Our mind rewrites stories. So every time you write the story and go through the same emotional process, that is going to cause you suffering. Your brain is rewriting it with that interpretation, with that focus that says, okay, good, I'm rewriting this for either the same way or worse. Because a lot of times we actually feel worse. It's literally rewriting it. I am not kidding you. This is serious. I am not kidding you. It literally rewrites it. So in order for you to help yourself, you now have to be the director, the producer, and the manager of your own film that's going to come through. Rewrite that sucker. And you're going to start, it's going to start slow, it's going to be hard, and it's going to have all those things, but you can rewrite it. But you have to go through and line up your egos. You have to understand what those are. You have to know and say, you know what? And yes, it's not good to actually say, hey, you must do this, you have to do whatever, because truly you don't. But here's where I stand. I don't want to keep suffering, so I'm going to change it. And what I'm doing is I'm going to tell you what I do to not keep suffering. Some people, that's the direction that they decide to go in. So if you don't want to keep on suffering, one of the things you can do is this. Line up your ego. Line up all the stories that are attached to that, and you line up all the emotions. Do this on a consistent basis. Write them out. Journal. And then rewrite it. Rewrite it. How have you changed over time? What's the lesson you learned from that? How can you use that as a good situation, a good memory, right? All these negative things. And then you start rewriting your story one after the other, after the other. All right? It's not going to be an easy process. It's not going to take 20 minutes. It's going to take a long time. But if you keep rehashing the same old story, the same old way, the same old emotion, you will not get better. However, if you do it this way, eventually you will. And I can tell you that for someone who changed 180 and went through all this, and it took me a while to actually do it as well, I can tell you it works. If you need help with anything, reach out to me in the email that I have below, or write in the comment. I would love to hear from you. What are some of the different situations? And the part of this that you know is going to be hard. The parts of this that you know is going to be like, man, this happened to me 5 years ago and I still haven't gotten over the damn thing. Because that's reality. That's reality. And so where does spirituality come in this? The vibrational part of it is spiritual. Our power is in us going through this and being able to redo what we need to do within ourselves, because we have the power within ourselves. And so that's the part of spirituality, and that's a part of us living better and you being your truest self that I want to go through with different people. I want you to realize you have the power to do it. You have the power to do whatever you want to do and change whatever you want to change and live the abundant and happy life that we all came here to live. So hopefully that helped. And until next time, when we do another talk on something, don't know what it is, it's going to be yet. I'll see you around. Goodbye.